Hi, everyone. My name is Gwen Kelly from Acid HR. I am the internal marketing director here, and today we're going to be having a webinar hosted by Peter Duran. So Peter does all of our cybersecurity work here from Imagine IT. He is fantastic. So I'm really excited for all of you to listen to his presentation.
All right, here we go. So just looking at the title slide here, I do a lot of webinars in cybersecurity. This one is going to be a little bit more focused on, we'll say, the user social engineering side and less on the ransomware side. That's important, but that's not really the focus for today. So this webinar is going to be unlike any webinar you've ever attended. It's action-packed. If you've ever seen me speak, you'll probably understand why. Now, we've all attended presentations, but be honest, how much do you actually take away that doesn't quickly get forgotten or never acted on? I've tried to solve for that. This presentation has many impactful and actionable takeaways, and to help make sure you act on them, there'll be homework assignments for everyone. And make sure you do them because Santa's watching. All right, one of our security vendors was kind of provide some giveaways that I'll talk about at the end. That's Huntress. Huntress protects user identities, including users of Asset HR, and this is relevant to today's content. Quickly about me, I started an IT services company about 30 years ago. We're based in the Midwest, pretty good size as far as MSPs go, quite a few clients. I spent almost all of my time now in cybersecurity, either following thought leadership, providing thought leadership to our peers and our large peer group that we're I consider myself a cyber insurance expert. I review 2 to 3 cyber insurance applications and policies a week. I work with some carriers that got real good at identifying issues in policy that might cause you to not be able to get a claim covered or enough of the claim covered. And I also do lots of webinars of this type. Now, there's 2 kinds of content here today, primarily here to stop losing money to scammers, but it's deeper than that. And I'll get there in a minute. From a business leadership standpoint, I like to educate people to not be low-hanging fruit. The bad guys run it like a business, and if you can frustrate them, they will go after somebody else. I also want to point out that executives own security, not IT. And we'll get into that. And there's some other items for leadership. There's quite a few items in here that we're going to cover from a user standpoint, and all of us are users, including executives, ways to help you avoid losing money to social engineering, finance fraud, QR code stuff, all that. Stuff that'll not only protect the business, the employer, but also your families. And again, there'll be homework for everybody at the end. Now this screenshot here is from Microsoft Teams. I know that we're on Zoom now. You can ask, I believe the way it's set up is you can ask public-facing questions in the chat, and there's probably some kind of Q&A feature where you can do more like private questions. We will provide a slide deck for this and the recording after. All right, hold on, I bring something up here. Okay, what are we looking at here? This is a live view of cyber warfare from over 100,000 criminals and defenders around the world. And that number doesn't include the over 200,000 trafficked humans held captive, forced to work in scam centers. I'll get to that in a moment. The world is at war. It's not a blood in the streets kind of war, because if it were, it would be front page news every day. It's an arms race that we're losing to adversarial nations and organized crime. Like it or not, we are all part of the cyber army and are on the front lines of defense for your country, your employer, and your family. Now, I know that was a bit over the top, but that's true. This is war now. You're not going to see enemy tanks rolling down Main Street, Minnesota. This is war in 2025 and beyond, and it's going on at massive scale, and it barely makes the news. So I want everybody to be aware. All right. Okay, let's talk about the dark web. This is where a lot of it is happening. So look at this iceberg here, and this iceberg is the entirety of all of the internet. The top 4% is accessible, say, via a Google search. Now think about how massive that is, Google's reach, how much stuff they can get to. It's only 4% of the internet. Most of the internet is behind legitimate places, legitimate logins, your internet site, some other portal, whatever's behind a username and a password, that is most of the internet. Now look at the dark web, this area down here that the criminals hang out. It's larger than the Google accessible internet. It's humongous. And what do the criminals do there? They conduct illegal activities. They sell contraband, weapons, drugs, pen files sitting out there. But from the context of this webinar, they sell access. So there's different types of hacking groups. Some of them only do one thing. Maybe all they do is obtain access to somebody's system, and they sell that to somebody else who's going to take that to the next level. They also sell confidential and sensitive data. Whatever's been downloaded, if you ever have an incident, the bad guys get a lot of your confidential data. They're going to try to sell that on the dark web, along with probably trying to send you a ransom note. But the part that bothers me the most is they sell hacker tradecraft. That cyber warfare diagram you were looking at a moment ago, well, a few years ago, there was only a small handful of really advanced hackers, but they started selling their tradecraft to each other. All these less skilled groups now have they have the blueprint and the process, and they know how to do very skilled hacking. And there's over 100,000 of them now. And they set up like corporate structures. So these real advanced groups train these lower groups how to do ransomware. If the lower group gets a ransom payment, they have to pay a commission to that top level group. It's crazy and scary at the same time. Now, let's talk about the current threat landscape. And this has been happening over the last few years. Like I kind of just said, they commoditized the tools and the processes. So now just about everybody with a computer that's not perfectly moral can do this. And they're attacking everybody. Businesses, government, schools, hospitals, nonprofits, it doesn't matter. If you have a bank account or intellectual property, you are a target. The typical time from initial access, let's say a user makes a mistake and clicks a link or takes a phone call from someone pretending to be IT support, is only 18 minutes. Only takes 18 minutes from that mistake until the bad guys start spreading across the systems. How are they so fast? Because they have the blueprint. Oh, it's a Microsoft computer. Okay, type this command, run this script, boom, boom, boom. And now they're doing bad things. Most of the victims are small business or government of our size. We're too small to make the news. We're not going to make the news. Artificial intelligence is making it easier for the bad guys to make stronger viruses, improve their workflows. Generative AI like ChatGPT and Copilot are making it easier for the bad guys to write perfect phishing emails with no grammar or spelling errors, even if they don't speak a lick of English. It's making it a lot easier for them and harder for us to detect. There are over 600 million attacks per day. I put that here because there aren't 600 million attackers. Most of it's automated now. It's run via AI and bots, and it's just constantly going out. Eventually, one of these bots gets into some kind of system, then a human takes over, runs with it from there. Last year, and this bullet point, take note, please. Last year, national public data was compromised. They were a background checking service. What kind of information did they have? Current name, previous name, social security number, current address, former addresses, known accomplices, criminal record. They had everything. It's all out there. The bad guys have all this data now. They have everything they need to social engineer us and try to steal our identities. Now, national public data, something happened to their business after this. I'm not exactly sure what kind of entity they are now, but it's almost like kind of public now, like it's just sitting out there. I want you to go later on, and this is in your homework assignment, to National Public Data Opt-out. You can just Google that. It'll take you to a place, once you find yourself, see all the information they have on them that's publicly out there, maybe print it or something, save it, and then opt out and delete yourself. It deletes pretty quickly. I would strongly encourage that. Last year, the FBI says Americans lost over $16 billion to online scams. It goes up a lot every year. And that's only what was reported because most people are too embarrassed to report it. Multi-factor authentication is not enough to protect you. We're going to talk about 4 ways today bad guys get around MFA. 3 of them are via social engineering. Billions of dollars each year are sucked out of the U.S. and used for bad things. If it's like North Korea or Iran, they're building weapon systems with that money. Everybody else, who knows what they're doing? But think of the trade deficit. With the current traditional trade deficit, a lot of money goes up, but we get a product in return. In the cyber warfare trade deficit, we get nothing. Just stress and heartache and emptied bank accounts. Now, there's some moral issues at play. There's something called modern slavery. I mentioned scam sellers earlier. In Southeast Asia and Africa, they lure job seekers to some great job. Job seeker moves there, goes there, and they get held captive. And they have to hit a quota every day to scam people. And if they don't hit their quota, they are subject to physical violence, their families. They might have to perform prostitution. It's a disgusting thing that's going on. And there's over 200,000 victims of this so far. Whenever you give money to a scammer, you're not just giving your money away. You're potentially facilitating this type of activity. Please try your hardest to never give money to a scammer or fall victim to a scam. Now, there's a new group out there called the Con. They've made a lot of news lately, and the FBI and some other national government agencies around the world are trying to attack the Con. The Con has three factions. HackerCom does traditional cybercrime, ransomware, that kind of thing. IRLCom hires people, physical violence for hire. Maybe you don't pay a ransom. They hire somebody to come threaten you and physically violate you. ExtortionCom targets young people. Young people, they trick young people into maybe sending something to them that can be embarrassing, and then they extort them, or they'll publish whatever that embarrassing thing is. The Com is successfully recruiting lots of young people around the world. Apparently, there's lots of young people that think this is a good idea. It's just a crazy world we live in. Again, we do not want to facilitate this. Please do not give money to a scammer. Now, the FTC put out a really nice graphic last year. This might be a little bit hard to see, but I'm going to highlight a couple points of this. The elderly are 25% of the victims, but they are a significant amount of the dollars, because a lot of the elderly have retirement money. They have money laying around just so that we're a little bit wealthier. They are almost $5 billion of losses just last year to scams. Why does it happen? Maybe they don't understand technology. They were easily tricked or confused. Some of them are more vulnerable than others. Young people, teching people, right? They're almost half of the victims, young adults. Why are they getting victimized so much? A number of things. One, they're very trusting of technology, that technology is going to protect them at work or protect their privacy. No, no, no. Two, maybe they've never been burned before. Well, once they're burned, they'll have the guard up more. Three, they follow social media influencers. Invest in this thing, buy this thing. This investment scams thing is the biggest loser, way more than ransomware, way more than a lot of other types of things, because people are getting tricked into investing stuff that's really just a scam. Now, again, I'm going to send a slide deck later. I'm not going to go over all these bullet points. You can look through these later. There's some other ones on this page too. We've all seen those least recent ones, late toll charges, or maybe the Department of Revenue. Click here to get your tax return kind of stuff. If you don't click here, you forfeit it, stuff like that. People are falling for it. People bring it to my attention. What do you think of this, Pete? Yeah, that's a scam. And I know Gwen just told me a little story too about something she saw just in the last day or so. All right. Weak small business security. Cisco, a large security provider, says that only 2% of small U.S. organizations can defend and respond to modern threats. We're small. We're in that category. Now, SNHR is in that 2%. Very strong security posture and program. They need to be. Are you in the 2% or the 98%? Most people are in the 98%. You're the low-hanging fruit. We're going to talk about it in a second. You don't want any low-hanging fruit. The hackers are very powerful. They're more powerful than Google, Microsoft, CrowdStrike, Cisco, my company. They're very powerful. There's too many of them. You at least want to frustrate them. Most businesses in the U.S., if you want to translate this to just people at homes, are gilligan. They're not prepared. They haven't thought it through. They don't know how it's going to play out if something bad happens. They don't have their defenses up. They have nothing to detect or frustrate bad guys, and they get taken over easily. If you can be frustrating to a criminal, they're losing money, wasting their time with you. They're going to move on to low-hanging fruit. Don't be the low-hanging fruit. And there's more issues at play. We talked about some of those already with the scam centers and the hacker group called the Com. You don't want to fund criminals. You never want to give them their money. You're just encouraging them to do more. And like I said, like North Korea, Iran, and maybe some others, They do things with that money that are not good. You're feeding the beast if you ever pay your ransom. Business standpoint, please never pay a ransom. I don't talk about ransomware much in this particular webinar. The bad guys will not delete your data. They're going to sell to somebody else and you're going to get more ransom notes. And never pay a ransom. Especially if you backups that kind of covered. And when you're compromised, you're exposing data that largely isn't yours. It's your staff's data, your client's data, it's somebody else's data. You have an obligation to protect data. And when you're compromised, let's say you're personally compromised, whether for business or home, you're exposing people in your circles. We've all seen that email, right? Somebody you know sends an email out of the blue, hey, click this link, whatever. And you're kind of suspicious. They maybe didn't take security seriously enough and they put you at risk. We all have an obligation to not get compromised. It puts other people at risk. So who owns cybersecurity? Is it IT? IT people? IT people like me, and I'm kind of on both ends of this. We have to follow a strategy provided by executive leadership. But executive leadership oftentimes doesn't know what that means. What kind of strategy? How do we do that? That's why I help executives learn how to develop the strategy and how to engage with IT leadership so they're doing the right things. You got to make sure they're doing the right things. You got to know what questions to ask and what kind of proof to get. And also you need to be having more of a standing topic in leadership meetings, board level meetings. Where is cybersecurity in there? Right? Very, very important. All right. Whenever a business gets compromised, you hear about it on the news, or you don't hear about it on the news. Why did we wait to prioritize investment in security? Is our reputation going to be damaged? Probably, right? Especially if client data is exposed, your reputation is going to be damaged. Are we going to be sued? Are there going to be audits and fines? Are you in a regulated industry? You're probably going to have audits and fines. This is going to have to be publicly disclosed to some government agency. Will I personally be held accountable for this? Remember, executives are ultimately accountable for IT security. Why isn't security risk management a standing topic in our meetings, right? These are important things. Now, depending upon the nature of your industry and maybe the size of your entity, you might have E&O insurance or cyber insurance. But if you were aware as a leader that there was a big gap in security, you didn't take action on it, you can personally be sued outside of the insurance. That's what director and officer insurance is for, to help protect people at that level against those kind of lawsuits, right? So you want to ever be in a position that where you were aware of something, make sure that you get knowledgeable, learn what questions to ask, and then get things into the budget and take care of those gaps so that you don't put yourself personally at risk. Okay. Account takeover fraud. This is very, very common. All right. This is where social engineering goes, right? You get an email, you click a link, you put in your email address and password, and bad guy just got that now, right? They took over your account, or they're maybe getting into your banking or payroll account. This is how most of it is happening. And I'm going to share a lot of stories here in a minute. And the bad guys have the ability to bypass multi-factor authentication in various ways. We'll talk about those in some of the stories. And once they're in, let's say it's payroll or direct deposit, they get into somebody's account there. They're going to change direct deposit information, right? They're going to change that kind of information. And last year, almost 30% of the U.S. population fell victim to an account takeover fraud. Maybe it was their mailbox. Maybe it was something to do with work, whatever it is. This is a really, really big deal. This is why we're here today. Now, here's another thing they're doing. There's very inexpensive software out there for the bad guys to recreate existing websites. So the bad guys can go out there and they could put in the software the domain name of your company, go out to your website, make a perfect copy of it. And the bad guy will have it, and then they'll have some new address for it. And then they'll start doing phishing campaigns, trying to trick users into falling for it, where they go to the bad guy's website. It looks just like a legitimate one and do things, right? And they do this for payroll and everything like that, and HR. And so, again, it's very simple for them. And how do we defend ourselves against this? It's security awareness training. and treating against social engineering attacks. So we're going to talk about some of that in a minute. How do they attack social engineering payroll providers? They often impersonate employees. They call in, hey, this is so-and-so. I lost my password, whatever it is. Can you please help me get in? Oh, my mother's maiden name. Okay, yep, here's my mother's maiden name because it's all in the dark web. They've got it, right? And they're tricking people like payroll providers, could be anything, right? Any kind of your internet provider, your cell phone provider. They're getting tricked into providing information, giving things out. Direct deposit information is getting changed or whatever it is, and people are losing money. All right. How do we protect our teams? First off, think about what's your process to verify a client caller. Now, my company does IT support. We take client callers. How do we verify who they are? How do you ask them a question that isn't already on the dark web, right? So I want you to start thinking about those things. If somebody were to call and ask for and pretend to be maybe an employee or not, how do you verify who they are with information that isn't out there? There's technologies that can help do this. Maybe they can make a pop-up on a cell phone or something. It's not inexpensive. Most people probably aren't going to deploy that technology. You're going to have more of a verbal way of doing this. So give that some thought. All right, multi-factor authentication, critical to security, mandated by cyber. So you need to have remote access, your email, all your online accounts. Pretty much everything has it now. There's still a few things out there that don't. Now, here's a couple of ways that bad guys get around MFA. First off, if you use text messaging as your MFA for a particular site, the bad guys have gotten really good at tricking cell phone carriers into giving them your phone number. Oh, hey, yeah, it's Johnny, blah, blah, blah. I lost my cell phone. I would really like you to transfer my number to this phone. Oh, yeah, my mother's maiden name is X, whatever the security question is. Security questions are out there. So they're getting really good at tricking cell phone providers into giving them your phone number. They call that a SIM swap. That's one way to get around. When they do that, your cell phone will no longer take calls. You can't get MFA via text messages. You're in a bad spot. You want to use an authenticator app like Microsoft Authenticator, Google Authenticator, there's many others. When you use an authenticator app instead of text messaging, the app is physically tied to your phone. Even if they trick your cell phone carrier and give them your number, your MFA will still work on your phone. There's also something else called MFA fatigue. This is in news all over the place, where you start getting a pop-up on your phone of some kind of saying, please approve the login. Please approve the login. And I didn't log in anything. Well, you don't want to approve it, but you get hammered with these prompts to approve it. There's been a lot of others like, look, I need to use my phone. I'm going to make that pop-up go away so I can use my phone. You just let the bad guy into your account. There's another way they get around MFA. Okay, so ANSA HR uses a platform called iSolved. And when a user gets enrolled, they get the option to choose different levels of security. They're getting allowed to choose low, medium, and high. All right. So in low security, they can pick email, text, an authenticator app, like we just talked about, or a passkey. We'll talk about that in a minute. Medium security eliminates email, and it's good because if the email account is compromised, which is common, bad guys can get the MFA in the email, and they can get in the account. But it still has SMS. Ideally, you want everybody to use only a passkey or an authenticator app. That's the best way to do it. Much more secure. At some future date, users will be forced to high security. There's no date set for that, but just know that that's coming. And it's not just from, say, ANSA HR. The world in general is moving in that direction. So how do you set up something like Microsoft Authenticator? So once you deploy it, it's very simple. You just go to add an account, choose, typically it's other, and then it's going to ask you to scan a QR code. You're going to take a picture of it with your phone right on your computer screen. And the next screen, it's going to ask you to, it's going to add it to your phone app, that Microsoft Authenticator app. Again, you can use other apps. And then it's going to ask you for the 6-digit code that now shows up in the app to verify it, and it's done. And then in the future, when you want to go to that website, you'll put in your email password, and then you go into your Authenticator app and you put in the code that you see on your phone. Much more secure. Now, there is social engineering way to get around that. I'll share that in a minute. All right, let's talk about password hygiene. Passwords are a much bigger issue than MFA. In 2021, PC Magazine did a survey, and it's still relevant today. Do you use the same password for more than one service or site? Yes, about a quarter of them said I use the same password for everything. Hopefully all of us know that's not a good idea. If your Pinterest account gets compromised, the bad guys are going to use that same password on your banking, on your emails, social media. They want to get into your social media. That's a gold mine. They can do all kinds of bad things there. Yes, I use the same password for most things. Okay, but half the users, very poor password hygiene. Another quarter, sometimes about another quarter, no, I don't. Now, keep in mind, PC Magazine's target audience is IT people. IT people probably do this better than most people. If I walk down Main Street, Minnesota, and randomly ask people this question, I'll bet 5% of people don't reuse passwords. It's a big problem. It's how little problems become big problems. I'll give you an example. Users working at work, they click a link, a phishing link, bad guy gets in, okay, they got to the computer, they haven't gotten anywhere else yet. But now they use some of these other passwords that are out there that the user keeps reusing. They might even use the same password at work, and they use that to expand across the network, right? Makes it a lot easier for them when you reuse passwords. Now, what does a good password look like? How long would it take to crack your password? It wasn't that long ago. We were recommending 7-character complex. 7 was kind of a magic number. Not too long, pretty hard to crack. But the cracking software is way too powerful now. A 7-character complex password is only about 6 minutes to hack. Very, very fast. And now it's something called quantum computing coming out soon. If you've ever heard of that, it's computers that are exponentially more powerful than the computers now. They'll be able to crack things much faster. They might even be able to crack encryption of different things much faster. It's kind of a scary thing that's going on there. There's an arms race for quantum computing going on, by the way. Okay. Now, password best practices. If you're not in a regulated industry that doesn't require often changes, don't change them often. The security community has changed its mindset to don't change them often, because when people are forced to change them often, they put a 1 at the end, they change it to a 2. Passwords tend to be kind of similar. It's not effective. So don't change them that often, but make them long. So remember this 7-character complex password, not strong enough. It's too short. Make it something like this. An easy to remember sentence. And better yet, use a password manager that generates a unique password for all of your sites. They're all going to look yucky like this. You don't have to remember them. Some of you are using a password manager already. That's great. For those of you that are not, you need to do this. And this will be part of your homework assignment at the end. Once you use a password manager, you only have to remember maybe about 5 passwords. Computer password, email password for work, maybe your Gmail, your Wi-Fi password at home or work maybe, and your password manager. And that's it. Make them all long and unique phrases, easy to remember. The length is key. This is going to take a long time to hack that password. All right, now I just went over some of the reasons why use a password manager. It remembers them for you. They're going to be stored in a secure and encrypted vault. Do not store passwords like in some password protected spreadsheet. It's not secure. They can easily hack that. Your passwords can be long, well unique. I make my passwords always 20 characters now. The ones that I don't have to remember. And frankly, the ones I just remember are also that long, at least that long too, because I make it a sentence. Also, which is cool, is they auto-populate login. So let's say I want to go to Amazon. I open my browser, click my little password manager button, select Amazon. Poof, it opens up Amazon in another tab. I didn't have to remember anything. It was very fast and very, very quickly, very handy. Here's a cool security feature of password managers. When you create an entry in your password manager, let's say it's my Amazon, I got to put in what's my Amazon login address, my email address, and my password, all 3. When you click a phishing email, it's going to take you to a website that doesn't match the accurate one. And your password manager is going to be giving you a funny look. That icon is going to give you a funny look. You're not at the right place. It's really helpful to catch you in case you're falling for a phishing scam. Big red flag. Now, also in this day and age where everybody has passwords saved and everything's kind of online, if somebody you love dies or you die, you can set up emergency access contacts, spouse, somebody you love, If you know, work, maybe you got a couple people that share there so that somebody can get in if somebody seriously feel ill or can really help out in those situations. All right, what's a pass key? Pass keys are a way to log in passwordless. It's the future. It isn't quite there yet. We'll talk about that. Typically, it's a biometric. So, like when I log into my Amazon, I click on my Amazon thing in my password manager, and then actually all I do is type my fingerprint thing on my computer. I don't even put it doesn't. I can still have the password manager too, but there's benefits why passkeys. They make you more phishing resistant. It's harder. They can't really social engineer you when you have the passkey. So why not switch now? First off, recovery from a lockdown account can be tricky. Let's say your passkey is tied to your computer and your computer dies, you can't get into your account. So what you want to do is you want to have your passkey stored in multiple places. If you have more than one computer, have it on both computers and your cell phone. Have it in a few places so you can get to it. A lot of systems still do not support passkey, but more and more. I just noticed some banking institutions I work with now both offer passkeys. So I switched to that. For low-tech users, this might be a little bit too techy at the current time. Just stick with Password Manager and MFA. If you're a little more techy, I would encourage you to start moving sites gradually to passkeys as you find out that is available. Now, I use my Password Manager to store my passkeys. Why? Because my Password Manager synchronizes to both my computers and my cell phone. So I've got it in multiple places. If one of my devices dies, I can still get into my accounts. All right. Humans are wired to material security. We're talking about security awareness training and social engineering. There's been some debate in the security community about the effectiveness of security awareness training. A big study was done this year, and the outcome was for organizations that provide monthly security awareness training to their staff, new staff are 44% more likely to fail a phishing email. That means the people getting the training are less likely. It's effective. It's one of many layers of a good security strategy. It is everything, but it's one of many layers. We're going to go through some stories now. This has happened to multiple clients of ours, people that got social engineered. All right. Cyber criminals figured out who was HR, payroll, who was kind of in that department. And they sent an email to that person pretending to be the CEO. It came from a different email address, but the HR person didn't notice that. He just saw the name. I'm in a big hurry. I need your help. I need everybody's payroll information emailed to me right now so I can finish this thing I'm working on. And the HR person did. They emailed everybody's W-2 payroll information. Staff's privacy was violated. They had to get identity theft protection for everybody, right? Simple little mistake. It's so much easier than ransomware doing this kind of stuff. The bad guys are making way more money doing ransomware type incidents. All right. And I'm afraid of ransomware, but again, it's not even close to where companies lose the most money. Business email compromise, getting your mailbox broken into by a bad guy. Why is that a big deal? Because they can email everybody in your contact list, people that trust you, and try to convince them into doing things. Per the FBI, last year, almost $3 billion, and again, a lot of it goes unreported. Coalition is a large cyber insurance carrier. Now, I follow the carriers a lot because they know the claims that are coming in is what they're trying to defend against and get all of us to elevate our security against. 60% of the claims last year were due to mailbox compromise and what happens after. What happens after a mailbox gets compromised in the payroll world? They could try to go after the payroll provider, change direct deposit information. They get into the account. They might have the MFA to get into the account, right? They could just go in and manually change it without even having to make a phone call. Important stuff. And the average claim last year was over $100,000 for small businesses of our size. That's a lot of money. Now, when I talk about cyber insurance, and I'll probably talk about that later, let's say you have $1 million policy, but the sublimits are very important. You might say, well, if it's ransomware, we'll cover $1 million. But if it's social engineering or finance fraud, we'll only cover $25,000 or $50,000. So since that's the most common kind of claim, you in effect have a $25,000 or $50,000 policy, not $1 million policy. And the reason the insurance carriers are doing that is because that's where most of the claims are, right? They don't want to lose money, so they're reducing your coverage. So one of the things you're going to do in your homework assignment is look at that and make sure your sublimits are all at least $100,000, maybe $250,000, depending upon the size of your business. Okay, so here's a little story. Small consulting firm used to be a client of ours. They had MFA on their 365. CEO fell for a phishing email. It's time to change your Microsoft password. Went to click the link, went to the site, put in her email address and her password. All right, did you guys have that? And now the bad guys got her MFA. How do they do that? They stole her session token. What is a session token? You ever go to a website, you log in with MFA and it says, please whitelist this browser or whitelist this browser for 30 days. When you do that, it saves a little file in your browser. It's called a session token. Well, the bad guy took that file out of her browser, put it in their browser, and now they had the MFA and they were able to log in. So they watched email for a while. And this happens a lot, by the way. They were watching email for a while, saw the CEO email the bank. So then they jumped in to a conversation with the bank, blah, 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 blah. Oh, by the way, I need to transfer $450,000 out, please. After some back and forth, they did without verifying the identity of the person making the request. They just trusted it was from the email address. And we're going to talk about that in a minute in great detail. Bad on the bank for doing that. They didn't have good processes. This is a few years ago. They probably have it now. This client didn't have cyber insurance, so that was just money gone. That was a lot of money. A lot of money for any company, especially a company that is this small. Okay. A little spin on business email compromise is vendor email compromise. One of your vendors gets compromised, and then bad guy emails your employees from a trusted email address, blah, 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 blah. Oh, by the way, we just changed banks. For all future payments, please send it to this bank account. And this is happening a lot, so much easier than ransomware. Here's a couple of incidents that made the news. The city of Baltimore and city of Portland, both this year. Big orgs, they must have good processes, right? Criminals posing as a city vendor who compromised the vendor, persuaded a city employee to send the criminal, in the case of Baltimore, over $1 million. In the case of Portland, over $6 million, money that was meant for a legitimate vendor. Multiple finance team people approved the request. They put their eyes on it, whatever. Okay, go ahead. What's the mistake they made? They didn't verify the request via a phone number they already have documented. They just did it via email back and forth. This is happening to a tune of $1 billion every year. A lot of money, way more than ransomware. Multiple clients of ours. This happened to 3 clients of ours this year. We have about 200 clients across the Midwest. A vendor's mailbox was compromised. So it's not the victim's fault. In 2 of the instances, the bad guy made a new internet domain 1 character off from the vendor's internet domain, interjected themselves into an existing email conversation doing that. Our client didn't notice. I wouldn't notice a domain with 1 character off. Oh, blah, blah, blah. By the way, we just changed banks. Please change all future payments to these bank accounts. Now, it isn't always like just one payment. Oftentimes you make a payment and then a payment and a payment and payment. Eventually your legitimate vendor says, hey, we're not getting paid. What's going on? Well, yeah, you are. No, we're not. You're paying a cyber criminal. What's the mistake? They didn't verify the request via a phone number they already had. They just trusted it via email. Okay, here's what I call the money slide. If every organization in the US followed this process, $1 billion would be saved every year, because this is just too easy for the bad guys. When requested to change banking information or payroll, direct deposit information, whatever it is, right? Make it relevant. For a customer, vendor, or employee, you must call them or see them in person via a pre-existing documented phone number. Don't use the phone number that's in the email. You're probably calling the bad guy. When requesting to perform a fund transfer, say, when requested to buy gift cards, that's here because this has been the most common scam we see. So you hire a new employee. They posted on LinkedIn, hey, I just got this great new job at so-and-so. Bad guys watch that. That's public information on LinkedIn. The new employee gets a text message from somebody pretending to be the owner or somebody high up and says, hey, welcome aboard. By the way, I'm working on this very important thing. I would be very impressed if you go out and buy $1,000 of gift cards. When you get them, text me the codes on the back, and I'll be very appreciative. That is the #1 scam we've seen across our client base. It's just too easy. People fall for it. Now, there's some other things on here. Now, our CFO helped me write this part, setting up dual authorization at your bank. You might already have this. If you don't, I would encourage you to do it. If somebody who's working, say, payroll, HR, whatever, finance department person gets a request for any of this kind of stuff up here, somebody else needs to put their eyes on it And then the bank is going to require both of you to sign up on it. And hopefully person number two says, did you call whatever we've already got? Great. All right, let's go ahead and do this. All right, just some examples of gift card schemes. The commonality here is sense of urgency. I'm in a hurry. I need this very quickly. Oftentimes in text messages, which is kind of unusual, they do it text a lot because there's a lot of email security. Very few people have protection on their cell phone for text messaging, stuff like this. So they're probably going to get the text message and get social engineered. All right, what are some of the most important things I can do to not make one of those mistakes? Perform your recurring security awareness training. Hopefully your company has recurring security awareness training for all of their employees, some kind of online video that they do every month. I would encourage you monthly that you do that. Not annually, it's not nearly enough. Slow down when reading and clicking email messages. I know we're in a hurry, we're all busy. Most incidents start in email. So that's where it starts, and then they reuse one of your passwords, and then maybe you've got some, you kind of got Gilligan's network and all those things put together, bad things happen. Avoid clicking ads online. Search engines, Facebook, social media. Why? More than half of all ads online are malicious. If you click a link and it's a malicious ad, it might try to download a virus to your computer, or it's going to take you to some place where they're going to try to social engineer you. I would encourage you, if you see an ad that you like, to try to, hopefully it's a brand you recognize, try to manually go to that company's website and try to find whatever that is there. Try to avoid clicking ads online. All right, deepfakes. So I have multiple slides about this, but only one for this particular presentation. This is going to become a big, big deal. There's very inexpensive software out there that allows bad guys to make deepfake videos for like Zoom meetings or just deepfake phone calls. And deepfake phone calls is much more common because it's a lot easier. So here's an example of one. Remember I talked about seniors getting taken advantage of? Here's one. Oh, hi, Grandpa, it's Johnny. Gosh, I've got some really embarrassing news. I got arrested. Yeah. I'm going to need some bail money. No, in a second, I'm going to put on the officer here. Officer George is going to get on and he's going to tell you how to send me bail money. Okay, here you go. And it sounded just like grandson Johnny. This is happening all the time. People are getting taken advantage of. They're not expecting it. One of the things I've read about that is recommended is in your family, either set up some kind of code words that you would use, or maybe just get in the practice of, if you get any weird requests like that, asking some questions only your grandson or your son would know. Right? So feel free to be inquisitive. If it's legitimate, it might be kind of a funny conversation. Not if they're in jail. Okay, talk about cell phones. Cell phones are a critical piece of your personal business security. And me as defenders, we have a hard time protecting your cell phone. So it's really up to you to do so. In email, let's say you get an email and you're looking on your cell phone. It's a lot harder to spot the red flags on your cell phone. If you get an email and you're like, I'm not sure about that one, wait till you get back to a computer so you can much more easily look for those red flags. Smishing or text message phishing, users are 8 times more likely to fall for it for various reasons. Maybe it catches them off guard. We don't have security on the cell phone. We can't block stuff. And it's very hard to detect kind of what it is. Look at this here where somebody wants this potential victim to tap that link right there. I don't know where H2SVR goes. It's not, with a web page, I can recognize answerinhr.com. It's right there in front of me. I have no idea what that is. Or there's URL shorteners like Bitly. I don't know where that's going to go. I encourage you to never click links in text messages. All right. Now, here's my best example of how you get around MFA social engineering. All right, here we go. Hello, Peter. This is Johnny from Amazon, badge number 7456 on a recorded line. We were just detecting some malicious activity on your Amazon account. Yeah, I know. All right, well, I'm here to help you out. So first, I got to verify I'm talking to Peter. All right. I'm going to send a code to the cell phone number we have on file. When you get that code, I want you to repeat that back to me, and then I'll know I'm talking to Peter and I can take care of you. You give him that code, you just gave him a fake code. And you're right. That's a clever. So how many people would fall for that? A lot of people would fall for that. It's tricky. Now, again, you weren't expecting that call. There could be circumstances where you reach out like your internet provider and they might do something like that, but you initiated it. But if somebody else initiated or it was initiated by a pop-up on your computer, be very suspicious and just hang up on that person. All right, QR code safety. We all see these QR code things now, right? The problem with QR codes is I can't tell where that goes. Can anybody tell me where this goes? I have no idea. Again, it's not like a web page where I can see it's actionable.hr.com. How about this one that says 7-Eleven? Can we trust that? Nope. That guy's to put a 7-Eleven logo on their creepy QR code. Be extremely suspicious of QR codes that arrive via email. You snap that with your phone, a virus could immediately start running. Be suspicious of stuff that comes in postal mail. The bad guys are actually paying for postage and sending it to people. Snap this QR code for whatever. They're getting a huge return on investment on that because people are falling for whatever it is. Either downloads a virus to their phone or they social engineer them after that. I would also encourage you to be very suspicious of publicly exposed QR codes. Let's say you're walking down Main Street, you're walking past a restaurant, click this QR code to get our loyalty club or to see our menu. A bad guy could have taped their QR code over the legitimate one. It's all over the news. That's why I provide little links here. You could Google this and you'll see all kinds of stuff like this about QR codes, fake QR codes. Be very, very careful. All right, getting down close to the end. Recognizing a security incident. First off, if you see something, say something. All right. I don't have a lot in this webinar about how the defenders do their thing. You click a link, the 18-minute window I talked about, you can raise your hand really quick. If you lose your cell phone, that's a security incident. Immediately get a hold of IT support and get a hold of your cell phone provider. If you lose a computer, that's a security incident. Immediately get a hold of IT support. If you allow remote access to somebody on your computer, you feel weird about it, disconnect them, turn off your computer, whatever it is, and call IT. You start getting weird pop-ups, you probably have a virus. Password issues, you're trying to log into some site, maybe your password manager is trying to log in. So you know it's not wrong. It's not working. Maybe bad guy got into your account, changed your password, they locked you out. Email banner warnings. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Sometimes you have an email system that gives you banners to warn you about stuff. If you get a warning in an email banner, be suspicious. People are telling you they're getting weird emails from you. You're spamming them with all kinds of, your mailbox is compromised. You put everybody else at risk. That'd be a terrible feeling. Call IT right away. There's a lot of work that has to be done to clean that up, potentially including some reputational harm. Payment problems. We talked about that, right? You're paying a cyber criminal instead of paying a legitimate vendor because banking information was changed. All right. Advice for leadership here. Don't assume IT leadership has it covered. I kind of talked about this a little bit already. You need to know what questions to ask and to get proof. Where are we most at risk? Do we ever get a security risk assessment? Can you show me some kind of executive summary, something I can understand? Is our backup system immutable? In 50% of successful ransomware incidents on premise networks, the bad guys were able to destroy the backups. Immutable means they can't. Can we neutralize critical threats 24/7? Show me how we do that. How do we protect user identities? Show a report. I'm going to show you some of this in a second. What are our cyber insurance gaps? Please explain that to me, right? A lot of leaders are relying on somebody else down the food chain to handle cyber insurance. You should probably know at a leadership level what exactly your coverage is and what the gaps are and what those cell limits are. How fast can we to mitigate the effects of a severe attack and get back online? If you have any kind of premise-based systems or critical cloud systems, that's a question you need answered. And I'll bet when you ask IT people, they're going to go, you're right. They're not going to know, probably. How good is the incident response plan, right? These are all things that leadership needs to kick off the conversation. All right, but here's an example of what good is. Now, remember on the first slide, I talked about hunters protecting their identities. This is how we do it for our clients. So from the standpoint of that first 18 minutes, it only takes about an hour total to take over an entire network. The average security operations center from detection and neutralization is 16 hours, way too slow. With our system using Huntress, it's 6 minutes. 6 minutes from a user clicks a link and makes a mistake, or somebody logs into their account from Russia. 6 minutes, we lock out that account, clean up the mess before anything bad happens. Every company needs something like this. All the cyber insurance applications, this is basically mandatory. You must have 24/7 security operations center capable of neutralizing threats, not just notifying threats. Now, here's what maybe a report looks like. I was kind of talking about as an executive. I can't personally, please show me a report. So here's a report. So for last quarter across our client base, there was over about 4 billion alerts. Well, nobody's going to look at that. I'm sure there's a lot of automation going on here. But once you get down here, this is eyes on glass, hands on keyboard, investigating, locking out accounts, isolating computers before the thing spreads. Very, very important stuff. You can see, we support about 10,000 users. That's a lot of mistaken clicks or logins from Russia. Some things are false positives too, but a lot of stuff going on that is being undetected. All right, we're at our homework. All right, homework for everybody. I want you to go to this link. Again, we're going to send this out later. You're going to go to this link, put in this password. You're going to watch 15 minutes of password management best practices. I already went over some of this. This is going to help solidify that so that you start using a password manager and use good password hygiene. Use an authenticator app on your cell phone if you don't already have one. Download one. All right, then be ready to use your password manager. All right, if you don't have one, Bitwarden is really good and it's free. It's only $10 a year for the premium version. I'm not sure the difference. Just pay the $10 for the. All right, now you're going to log into every one of your online sites if you haven't already done. And you're going to change all those passwords. You're going to use the password generator of your password manager. You can generate new long passwords that are all wildly unique from each other. And while you're in there, you're going to change the MFA to an authenticator app, or maybe even a passkey, if you're that techie, and get that done. By doing that, you solve a lot of problems of people losing money and use that. And again, while in there, do your MFA. All right. Page 2 for everybody. Go to this link, National Public Data, and opt out. Again, see what they have on you. I printed or save it, kind of interesting, and then delete it. Part of the interesting thing is the known associates. Since that's out there, bad guys know who some of your known associates are, and they can pretend to be that person to social engineer you or the other way around. You want to get that off the internet. I would strongly encourage you to freeze your credit at the 3 credit bureaus. I wish this was by default, but it's not. When you do that, bad guys cannot open accounts with your social security number or in your name. The credit agency have to run your credit, right? Now, let's say you're doing something legitimate with the car dealer. You're going to buy a car. Oh, wait, we got to run your credit. We can't. Ask them which credit bureau. Don't just have them tell you all 3. Find out which one. And then you temporarily log into that site and you put a temp unfreeze. It'll automatically refreeze 24 hours later. This link tells you how to do that for all 3 credit bureaus. For the IRS, if you work with a CPA, you might already have an IP PIN. If you don't, I would encourage you to get one so that somebody can't file your tax return, and collect your refund. When you have a PIN, you can't do that. You can use CPA. That's why you need to get them a PIN. Here's how you do that. Lock your social security number. Bad guys are using our social security numbers to apply for employment to try to get jobs somewhere. Crazy, right? We don't want them doing that. I don't want somebody using my social security to get a job somewhere or maybe to log in and change my information. Here's how you lock your social security number. You only really need to unlock it if you're going to maybe apply for a job somewhere. All right. Homework for finance type people. People want payment authorization. Again, this is a duplicate of the slide we saw earlier. You need to improve your processes internally. And some of you are probably saying, yeah, hopefully you are. But all those big orgs that thought they had their process didn't, and they lost a lot of money. All right. A little homework assignment for leadership. I would encourage you to go get your cyber insurance policy, figure out what the grand total is, and hopefully that's appropriate for the size of your org, and make sure your sublimits are at least 100,000, maybe 250,000 for those things like social engineering, banking fraud, finance fraud, computer fraud, because that's really where most of the claims are. That's where we see that's where we're getting most of the stuff across our clientele. All right, I wanted to show you an example I talked about email banners. So it would be really good to have this kind of email security. When a user gets an email, if it's something that they've already allowed previously, maybe they've tagged it properly, it comes in with gray from an external user. But if it's not, it'll come in with a yellow banner. Hey, this is a first-time sender. Or whatever the reason is. If it's something you want, you might click not spam, and then it goes gray next time. Or it's spam, I never want to see this again. But I want to show you this red one. So remember that example where bad guy, compromised vendor, made a new domain one character off and then emailed our client? Well, if our clients had this kind of system in place, and they were actually rolling this out to our clients now, it would have come in with a red banner. It would have been pretty obvious. Hey, this isn't who you think it is. It's first time sender, a new domain, big red flag, right? They might have saved $100,000 or their insurance deductible. Very important. All right. Lastly, homework for leadership. I would like you to reach out to me for a cyber risk assessment Q&A meeting. Have your cyber insurance policy handy. The first 5 that complete the assessment meeting with me will receive a $250 gift card. Huntress was kind enough to provide that to us. When we meet, I will also review some very important stuff, some training documents to help you. First off, something I wrote, an article called The 7 Stages of C-Suite Cybersecurity Denial. I'm going to go through this with you and make sure you're not in denial in any one of these areas to make sure you have everything well protected and have a lower level of risk. Secondly, something else I wrote, 5 critical cybersecurity questions executives must ask IT leadership. It's actually 10. 5 is their title. I'm going to arm you and train you and rehearse with you how to engage with IT leadership so that you can properly get them in the right direction, ask the right questions, get proof, ask follow-up questions, and so on. Also, I do a lot of webinars, as I mentioned. I'd be happy to do a no-charge webinar for your team. It's a little different, mostly user focused, where we go a lot deeper into scam ways and that kind of thing. I also have a newsletter. You can go to this link and sign up for my quarterly newsletter. All right. I have some parting thoughts. At some point, all of you learned how to manage money, right? It's a basic skill. Well, in 2025, the new basic skill is cyber threat awareness so that you can protect what's important. And as a leader, you need to know how to effectively engage with IT leadership. This presentation slide deck will be provided. Please share and review with your loved ones, especially those that are vulnerable or inexperienced. Pick those few slides out for your parents or your teenagers or young adults. Asset HR does a lot of good in the world, probably some more than some of you folks even know. For me, doing these webinars and educating executives is how I give back. However, it's hard to get in front of people. If you know any business leaders that could use stronger security or that would benefit from this type of webinar, please introduce me. Do your homework. Feel free to engage with me directly or just reach out to Asset HR team. Thank you, and please stay cyber safe.